Hey cherries, it's Jessica here from A Cherry on Top, and welcome to our class. In today's class, we will be painting a winter scene using acrylic paints. So I'll be showing you how to paint the background, and then we'll be painting the trees on top of it. This would go great. You could paint it on a card. You can paint it on a canvas. Today I'm using a 8 by 10 inch canvas. You could use it for home decor or give it as a gift this holiday season. So there's a lot of options to do with it. I'll be using some basics paint, and you don't need too many colors for this painting. Just green, white, black, and blue. And we can make a bunch of different shades using these 4 colors. I also have a few other random shades of blues and greens that I found in our little paint bin. So I'll be using some of those as well. And then of course you need some paintbrushes, surface to work on, and that should be it. So let's get started. Okay. And Rachel is also here. Hi, Rachel. She's just leaving the comments, though. So, hi, Rachel. I am working on top of a cherry craft mat, so which is really nice with this type of painting because I can just apply the paint here and work off of it that way, and it's really easy to clean up. I like to wait for the paint to dry completely, and then I will scrape it off. Very easy. Rachel said she wishes she was painting with us today. I wish so too. It's kind of strange painting or doing one of these classes just by myself. Is anybody else painting along with me today? Or are you going to watch and see how it's done and then watch it and paint with it on repeat? So to start with the background, I'm going to grab a glob of the white and then mix in just the tiniest bit of blue. You can always add more blue, but I like to start out with less. And as you can see from this painting, I have the sky a little bit more blue than what the foreground snow is. So I'm going to add a little bit of both of these colors of blue I have for the sky. And grab my paintbrush and start putting it on here. I don't need this to be perfectly mixed. I like my sky and my foreground to look a little bit like it's not a fully mixed solid color. And I think it makes it look a little bit more natural. So as I'm painting over it, I'm grabbing a little bit more white, painting it in, might grab a little bit more of the blue, paint some of that in. And that is how I'll fill about the top 2/3 of my painting. So this is a really simple background technique. You can even make it like a little bit swirly if you want it to look like there's some movement with the wind here. A lot of different ways you could do this. So there, I have some movement, some waves, and there's my sky. Next, moving on to the snow, I'm going to paint only using my palette knife. So I'm going to grab mostly white with a little bit of that color in there, and just carry it across the canvas. You can hear it scraping the canvas a little bit. So when I'm painting using acrylic paint, I like the paint to look really thick and for it to have a lot of texture. So that's usually how I'll end up painting. So this is a painting that will stay wet for a little bit, but it has a bit of texture in there that you can see. It makes it a little bit harder to paint on top of it because I'll be painting on this foreground snow area while the paint is still wet, but I think it's worth it to have that thick paint look. Okay, so that will do for my base of the background. And now it's time to move on to trees. My favorite technique for using trees is to use a fan brush. And this way I can more easily mark out where I want my trees and start adding some of the branches. And then I'll go in with a thinner paintbrush, like one of these, after to get more of the brush marks. So I'm going to start by mixing a few colors of green. Use this and then mix in a little bit of white with it, or a lighter green. I'm going to grab some of this Stamperia green. This was part of the Alice in Wonderland pack. It's just a good muted green. That's also where that blue came from. I was using this blue. And here's some green I found in some from our stash from I don't know how long ago, but figured I'd use some of that as well. Okay, and then I want to make a darker green by mixing in a tiny bit of black. Whenever you're mixing anything with black, start with a very, very small amount of black and work in more as you go. Black can be very overpowering, so all you need is a tiny little bit. And this green that I have with the black is the color that I'm going to start with first, because this will be like my base layer, so it'll look hopefully a little shadowed behind the rest of the tree. And again, I don't care if these colors are perfectly mixed. I'm okay if, like in one stroke of the painting, if there's a few different colors in there. So I'm getting my paintbrush, my fan brush here, completely covered with paint. And now I can start to plan out where I want my trees. So I'm going to start with one over here. And just using the top of the fan brush, I can draw a line down, and this will mark how long my tree will be and where its center is. So all of my branches will come off of this center line. From here, as I am using this brush, I do like a push and spin method a little bit. So I'll push it down. And this does not need to be perfect. This is just to mark out where our branches will be, and most of this will get completely covered. If you're doing this at home and you have a bit more time, I would say it'd be nice if you'd let the background dry completely before starting this step, because as you can see, I'm picking up a bit of that white towards my bottom, but I don't really mind it anyways, because I'll go over this quite a few times. You won't be able to tell the difference by the end. Okay, and after I've got my first tree, I'm just going to move on and mark out where I want to do my second tree. Need a little bit more green. Rachel asked if I'm ignoring her comments. No, I'm not. I'm reading them. She said, maybe the painting's for her. Maybe. She said she's loving that shade of green. And me too. I really like adding white to the green. I think it makes just a really nice shade. Or also the black. I've also got a little bit of white in this black green mixture. So for my next tree, I'm going to put it about here and make it a bit taller than my first tree. So starting the same way, drawing a line down. These trees can overlap a little bit. And starting to draw these branches again. So in this painting, I'm planning to do a total of 3 trees, like in my original painting. I think 3 is a nice number for a lot of things. So be doing 3 again. Think groups of like 3 or 5, 7, those odd numbers, they just tend to look better for me. So yeah, I'll just be going with the 3 trees today. Here's my third tree, and onto my last tree. I'll make it a smaller tree here, and it can be sitting on my horizon line, which is where the snow is meeting the sky. If you are doing this on a card or something where you'll be wanting to make a lot of them, you could really just leave the painting here. I think these trees look pretty good as is. There's a few different shades in there. I was picking up some white from the background that I like. I have some of the darker green with the black mixed in it visible there, and some of just the plain green as well. So you could really just leave this painting here. I'm going to add a few more colors of green into it and add some thicker paint as well. But you can leave it or you can keep working with it. I think that's something that's pretty cool with this type of painting. You can really stop at any point. So now I'm going into, this is more of like a medium-sized brush. It's not my smallest brush yet. But I grabbed one of my lighter shades of green, and I'm just going to start adding some brush strokes onto some of these branches. And I wanted to do all of the trees at once, like so they're all at the same stage as I start adding these other colors to them. As well as having brush strokes that are going to the sides, I'm also having some that go a little bit straighter down the center, because trees also have branches that come straight out at you. And while I have this color on my brush, just moving to my other trees and adding some more branches. So this green that I'm using is more of my middle shade of green, and I will still want to go and add some lighter green, especially to the top of the tree, and to make it look like there's some snow on the tops of the branches. And then I'll also want to go in with some darker green to add some more shadows, or even some pure black in some areas. Okay, there's my first shade of green on the tree. I'm going to add some shadows with the black. And as you saw, I didn't wash my brush in between these colors. I think because I'm using all shades of green, I don't really need to. I'm okay if one shade of green mixes in with the other. So it saves a little bit of time, and yeah, I don't think it's necessary to wash off all the paint when you're using the same color. Rachel asked if I could paint Clinton here. That might have to be class part number 2. Paint Clinton here. Give him little earmuffs. Yesterday we had our Christmas party, our work Christmas party, and everybody wore ugly sweaters. So maybe I'd paint Clint in his ugly sweater. Have him just standing here by this tree. Okay, now I'm going to go on to my next shade of green. This is more of a bright shade. Maybe there's a little bit of yellow mixed in here. Just adding a bit of that. And I'm pretty much doing the same strokes for on each of these trees, and just going around and adding this. If my stroke that I'm working on covers over my brush stroke behind it, I'm fine with that. I like the layering, because this shouldn't be like a perfect tree or a perfect painting. I think it looks more like a natural tree this way. And really, you could get a lot of detail in this tree by continuing to go over it and getting your paintbrush smaller and smaller, pretty much doing the same type of stroke. Okay, and now I'm going to move on to my last color, which will be my lighter green with a little bit of white mixed into it. think also you could mix in a little bit of blue, which I might do. I think that would be nice. Okay, I'm going to mix some of this blue in with this darker green. So it's got green, black, and blue in here. Because a lot of these trees, Christmas trees or evergreen trees, do have a little bit of a blue tint to them. Just putting a little bit of that in there. You could also add like Christmas ornaments on these trees or add some lights. You could do this by adding paint, like more paint on top of it, or you could even let your painting dry completely and then going back into it by either adding glitter or foil, or just adding more paint after it's dry. I think that'd be cute for like a Christmas card or something you want more Christmas themed, or you could keep it as is without the ornaments, and then it's a painting that's good more all throughout the year. Okay, now I'm going to add a little bit more of a very light green. So this is just mostly white. And just adding a little bit of this to the tops of these branches. Okay. Oh, a little bit more on this tree. Mm-hmm. And you could really play with this for a long time. You could keep adding more branches. Okay, now I'm pretty happy with my trees. A little bit more snowy on this one. But I also want to add a little bit of shadow underneath them so it looks more like they're set in the stone. So I'm going to use a little bit of black. Again, you only need the tiniest bit. So a little bit of black. And my snow I have here is still pretty wet. Got a little speck in here. Okay, but this snow is still pretty wet, so I'm just grabbing the tiniest bit of black and getting it on my brush. My brush is still a little bit wet from when I just rinsed it, so I was able to just pick up the smallest bit of black and I can start adding it into this white snow. So I'm just doing some horizontal motions with my paintbrush. And I would like it to be a darker black closer to the tree. And as I get further away, it blends out into the snow a little bit more. So this shadow just makes it look a little bit more realistic and makes it look like these trees are actually sitting in the snow. I think it adds a bit. I know it could be a little bit scary adding some black onto your painting that's pretty much already finished, but I'd say just go for it. Test it out. If you don't like it, you can always scrape it off and add some more plain white to cover up. And I liked the look that my palette knife gave to this snow, so I'm just going to pick up a little bit more white with it. And cover up just some of the edges of this so it looks more blended in here. So I'm just very lightly going over this. You could also, if you covered up any of your tree, just fix your branches a little bit, have it go into the snow. Or you can leave it where the snow is covering up the branches. I think both would make sense with these trees in nature. And then my last step of this painting is I'm going to add some snowflakes. And my favorite technique for adding snowflakes on a finished painting like this is to just splatter them. There we go. So how I do that is I clean off my paintbrush first. I want it very clean. I don't want any of the green or the blue or the black mixing in. So I have my clean paintbrush, I have my white, and I'm going to get this white paint very watered down. And then I just tap this paintbrush on my finger. If you are not getting splatters, it's because you need to mix more water into your paint. Or here, I just got a big glob of paint. I don't really want that. We'll just mix that in. Here we go. Never knew it happened. Here's the painting we just did. Here's the one from yesterday. So they're pretty similar. They're always going to be a little bit different. Rachel also made this painting when we were practicing. So here's an example with the adding some ornaments after or lights. So you can just add some of the different colors you like. And just do some ornaments that way. Or like I said, you can use some foil with glue, or add glitter, or even micro beads, or whatever other mixed media thing you can think of. So I hope you enjoyed this class and hope you got some ideas for painting your next project. And thanks for watching.